The 2016 Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, brought to you from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting. The race for Public Service Commission, District 2.
Hello, I'm Rickey Bevington, Senior Anchor Correspondent for Georgia Public Broadcasting in Atlanta. Welcome to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from the GPB studios in Atlanta. This is the debate between the candidates in Georgia's Public Service Commission District 2, which covers East Central Georgia. The district includes all or parts of Gwinnett, Newton, and Jefferson counties. Now let's meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order. Tim Echols has served on the Public Service Commission since 2010 after spending 15 years in the nonprofit sector. And Eric Hoskins is the Libertarian candidate and is an IT support manager. And we will meet our panelists. Dave Williams covers government for the Atlanta Business Chronicle. And Elly is an award-winning journalist for 90.1 WABE, where she focuses on immigration and state politics. Tonight's debate will consist of 3 rounds. For more information on the rules for each round, please visit the Atlanta Press Club website, atlantapressclub.org. And now we'll get started. In the first round, each candidate will be asked one question by one of our panelists. Candidates have 60 seconds to answer the question. And Elly, you get the first question to Tim Echols.
Thank you, Rickey. Hi, Commissioner. As you know, Commissioner, the expansion at Plant Vogel has been over budget and several years behind schedule. How can ratepayers have confidence in that this project will be a good deal for them in the long run?
This is a question we ask ourselves every 6 months at the Public Service Commission. Not only do we have a monitor there that gives us frequent reports, but we look at the financial integrity of the project to determine, is this still the best deal over against what we could do maybe with a gas plant or some other form of generating electricity. And to this point, it continues to be the best deal when you look out over 60 years. So until that changes, I'm going to continue to support the nuclear power plant. Of course, the hearings that we'll be conducting regarding the overruns, very important to make sure that our ratepayers are represented and that they get the best deal out of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Echols. Dave Williams, you can now ask a question to Eric Hoskins.
Mr. Hoskins.
Hello.
Since 2013, the PSC has grown more aggressive in pushing Georgia Power Company to commit to expanding its use of renewable energy. Are you concerned that might put upward pressure on rates?
Obviously, I think that pushing for renewable energy and the cost associated with it could push up rates. But in the same aspect, is it worth the rate increases and how extensive could they be? I personally think that as a consumer of electricity here in Georgia, that we have fantastically low rates as it is, and looking for future generations, we need to look at all of the options, and is renewable the best option for Georgia?
That concludes our first round, and in the second round, the candidates will ask one question of each other. Each will have 30 seconds to ask the question, 60 seconds to respond, and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. By random selection, Tim Echols, you get the first question.
Thank you. I'd like to ask my opponent about ballot access for our Libertarian Party here in Georgia, why ballot access is so important, and where you see that going in the future.
Thank you for that question. I believe that as a third-party candidate, ballot access is critical to keeping the state of Georgia on track when it comes to options for candidates for state office. As a Libertarian on the state ballot, I have the opportunity, if polled high enough, to keep the Libertarian Party active for future candidates in Georgia races at the state level. And I find that a fantastic honor, and I honestly thank you for the question.
Thank you. And you can have a 30-second rebuttal if you'd like, Commissioner Echols.
No, it's great. It's a pleasure to have this race going on, and I think this dialogue is very important that we continue to engage in coming up with the best ideas to serve ratepayers in the state of Georgia.
Thank you. Eric Hoskins, you now have the opportunity to ask Tim Echols a question.
Thank you for that opportunity. Mr. Echols, I would like to know, of your tenure for 6 years on the Public Service Commission, what is the one thing that you would like to see the change if you had your wish more than anything else?
I'm very proud, of course, of our rates being 14% below the national average. I'm proud of the advancement we've made in solar, going from about 34th to 7th in the nation. I've toured, just about every power plant in the state. I spoke to Rotary clubs once a week, for the last 6 years. I'm very, very pleased with that. I just want to continue to do a good job for folks, certainly being able to move our state forward. And I guess if there's one thing that concerns me about our state, and this really doesn't pertain to energy, but it's the sex trafficking issue that we have in Atlanta, something I've really fought against in the evening with my free time. And it's a blight on our state, and it's something that I want to continue to fight, and I hope all the viewers will support Amendment 2 in providing money to help these victims as they come out of sex trafficking.
30-second rebuttal?
No, I think that he's got a fantastic point. The sex trafficking is a concern, and I know you've been very active in that. I believe that the Georgia power rates and Georgia rates in general are fantastic. We've done a great job, and let's keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you both. That concludes our second round. For those just joining us, this is the debate between the candidates in Georgia's Public Service Commission District 2 race. We will now go to our third and final round. And in this round, each panelist will ask a question to the candidate of his or her choice until we run out of time. As a point of moderator privilege, I may also ask a question of the candidates. I will determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. Dave, you get the first question.
Thanks. I'd like to ask a question actually of both candidates. I guess it's your decision who goes first. The General Assembly passed legislation last year letting Georgia property owners use third-party financing to have solar panels installed at their homes or businesses. It was a big deal at the time, a lot of support. However, it's been over a year now since that took effect, and the early indications are there hadn't really been a whole lot of activity. Not a lot of installations have gone on, not as many as people thought. Is there anything the PSC could do to help the solar installation business get a stronger foothold in Georgia?
Commissioner Echols, why don't we begin with you and then move to Eric Hoskins for a response.
This bill, which was passed out of the General Assembly almost unanimously, really, I think, benefits nonprofit organizations and churches who want to do solar more than anyone else. And it's been very difficult to get the word out to these nonprofits that they can benefit from this. And the reason it's so helpful to them is because they don't pay any taxes. And there is a solar investment tax credit, both on the federal and state side, that they don't qualify for. So being able to have a third party receive that and then pass on the savings to the church or the nonprofit is important. Everywhere I go, I talk about this, but budgets are difficult with nonprofits and churches, and we just need to continue this educational campaign to help them see what a great opportunity this is.
Eric Hoskins?
I think you took the words out of my mouth when it said education. I believe that honestly the problem that we're facing is that not enough individuals know about the opportunities for solar energy here in the state of Georgia. I believe that there is a huge opportunity to encourage residential nonprofits, anyone to take advantage to energy that will actually help our dependency. I also believe there's possibly a concern when it comes to using all of the energy and or possibly selling it back to the grid. As I understand, there could be a meter tariff fee that impacts individuals to actually, possibly reap some of the rewards for this particular energy. And I really think that it comes down to the point that we need to get the word out and drive home that this is available and that we should do it.
I would like to use my moderator privilege since we are on the topic of solar energy. I think a lot of Georgians are interested in solar energy. We have a very sunny state, great weather, but we're not necessarily as educated. And so I'm wondering what barriers you all see and solutions you might offer to help just the average Georgian really understand the technology, but also the policy and what the benefits are and also risks to the average consumer. Commissioner Echols, we'll begin with you.
Well, certainly Georgia has become a leader. We are the fastest growing solar state in the nation, but you won't see it here in metro Atlanta. You go to middle Georgia, South Georgia, and you see hundreds and sometimes thousands of acres of solar panels out in the middle of nowhere. The secret sauce for us really has been a program created by the Public Service Commission. Bubba McDonald, one of my colleagues, that we affectionately call Bubba Solar, that allows Georgia Power to purchase most of this solar. And the secret sauce is cheap land, flat land, and proximity to a Georgia Power substation. And we're going to continue adding more of that. We just approved another 1,200 megawatts. I think if there's anything we need to do is to help rooftop owners, individuals, homeowners, to be able to see the value of solar and how it can help their monthly power bill.
Eric Hoskins.
I was actually just reading the National Renewable Energy Laboratory report about consumer solar and the viability in the state of Georgia. It's a very complicated topic when you look at credits, incentives, the install costs, the ultimate gain, the amount of sun that, let's say Georgia does receive. Ultimately, I believe Georgia fell right in the middle when it came to that study on what our viability would be. Again, taking this away, anything in my mind that is going to improve our future generations for our energy dependency is a step in the right direction. And I absolutely see solar as a step in the right direction.
Thank you both for your answers. Elly, you now have an opportunity to ask a question.
Sort of going off solar, this is a question for both candidates, how would you like to see Georgia's portfolio in terms of renewable energy sources, and how do you foresee go about doing so, making those changes?
Eric Hoskins, we'll begin with you.
I believe that solar is a fantastic option, as stated earlier, although I don't see it being the majority of our electricity generation in the state of Georgia. I like nuclear. Solar has the downside of the dependency on sun, rain, water, and such. Nuclear is a fantastic option. We have much cleaner gas burning plants, dual fuel plants. I would love to see biomass. Possibly another thing that I was looking into is the recycling, the breeder fuel reactors, where we can actually reuse the nuclear material in other plants. I think the mix, if I was to choose, I would lean higher on the cleaner energies, 60-70% of the portfolio, and then keeping what we have in place as best as possible to fade out in the future.
When I took office, we had 4 measly megawatts of solar power in Georgia. I initially thought, as I set goals my first year in office, that maybe we could double or triple it, but in fact, we have now 963 megawatts of installed solar. It's been beyond my wildest imagination what we could do, and it was really because of the particular plan that we set up. Very different than Hawaii, different than California, different than Arizona, different than Germany. And I like the way that we're doing it here. I don't really favor any kind of mandated portfolio standard that the government or the legislature might set up. I really feel like that has put states like North Carolina in a difficult position. That said, as we approach 10%, we're going to start having some issues on our grid with inverters and transformers. We just have to be careful as we continue to add it to make sure we don't get unintended consequences.
Thank you both for your responses. Dave Williams, your opportunity to ask a question.
I have a question for Commissioner Echols. You've been a big fan of electric vehicles, big proponent. The General Assembly last year passed legislation. It was an omnibus bill to do with transportation funding, but one thing it did was get rid of the state's $5,000 tax credit on the purchase or lease of electric vehicles. Are you concerned that's going to hurt Georgia's position in that market?
Oh, it's definitely hurting Georgia's position in the market. According to the Department of Revenue, the sale and lease of electric vehicles has dropped 95% since the tax credit ended. We were second in the nation for electric cars, and we are going to continue to free fall through other states that still have the credit. There's not that many states that have it. There's about 8 that have some kind of credit. Georgia had the highest. And I understand why my Republican colleagues over in the legislature ended the credit. I think they were looking for money for roads, bridges, and that's admirable. But there's a lot of benefits to electric cars. In fact, I have an electric car. My opponent here on the stage with me has an electric car. We both see the value of it, and we both advocate for these cars. I just hope that we'll be able to make some headway in persuading folks about the many benefits associated with electric vehicles.
And I'll give Eric Hoskins an opportunity to respond.
Thank you. As mentioned, I also own an electric vehicle, and I did not realize the enjoyment I would have from such vehicle. I think technically that Colorado was the largest subsidized state, with Georgia coming in second at $5,000 for state credits. And that being said, I am highly concerned about the loss of that tax credit for our state. It prevented people from actually going out, or discouraged individuals from going out and buying cars that are now $5,000 more expensive. It slowed the progress of charging stations. It reduced the actual ability for people with these vehicles to travel to other parts because there's not the need anymore. It's slowed down to such a drastic measure. It's a problem, and we need to look at ways to actually get that back.
Elly, your question.
This is a question for both candidates, but yesterday a deal was reached, a preliminary deal on the cost overruns regarding the expansions at Plant Vogtle. Although it's still, I understand there will be hearings and a final vote later on. Should ratepayers foot any of that bill of these cost overruns?
Commissioner Echols, we'll begin with you.
The Public Service Commission is really like an umpire. The way that it's been set up in the state constitution. The legislature creates the strike zone. And we've got batters, we've got pitchers, we've got catchers, but we're the umpire. And we don't set the rules. We enforce the rules. And that strike zone that's been set regarding building power plants has something to do with a legal concept called prudency. And we have to decide as we look at the evidence whether or not the added cost that the power companies had to spend on this power plant, was it from some design change? Was it mandated because of Fukushima? Was it a cybersecurity issue? Was it anything inappropriate they did? Did they lie? Did they distort? We have to look at all that, and we're going to have hearings in December and January and be able to determine if that is in fact the case.
Eric Hoskins?
I say, being from the outside in and kind of the stance, it's hard to say that you run a business and you go possibly hundreds of times over cost to find it viable. It doesn't seem right. And in the same aspect, looking at all of the challenges that are faced, I also believe this is one of the first nuclear power plants of its size to come back up online. So there's obviously challenges there. Before making a hard stance on it, I'd really like to get some more information. I just heard about the ruling yesterday, or the stipulation, thank you for that, yesterday, and believe that there is possible excuses and justifications for the cost, but should the Georgia taxpayers, or consumers of utilities pick up the cost? I'm very hesitant about that just based on the policies of the company that's in charge.
Thank you both. Dave Williams.
This question's for both candidates as well, a follow-up to what Elly was just talking about, the settlement agreement announced on Thursday. There was a discussion at one point earlier in the year about when this prudency investigation, to use the term Commissioner Echols just mentioned, when that decision would be made, and a lot of folks have argued that we should have waited, not made a decision on that until after the first of the two new nuclear units at Plant Vogtle has been completed, which I think is around 2019, rather than make that decision now because other things could happen later on during the construction. What's your thoughts on the timing of this prudency investigation and the hearings and decision coming up?
Why don't we begin with Eric Hoskins to keep it in order?
Thank you. I believe that it's interesting to have the conversation now without knowing what the ultimate final cost will be, but I think there's some confirmation that people need to know what they're expecting. They've already been charged for it kind of once for the construction cost back in 2009 possibly that's been passed over, and they want to know what's happening, right? Is this still going to affect us? So not knowing what the ultimate cost will be, are we having this decision now, I think is a conversation piece that we need to discuss. And I think that, realistically, it is very important to see where we're at today to make the right decisions. Do we continue forward? And as we've heard earlier, it seems like that's a yes.
I was the lone commission vote against having these prudency hearings now. And it wasn't because I wanted to kick it down the road or that I didn't think the commission could handle it now. I felt like that we, in fact, did need to wait until the contraption, the device, the plant is actually working before we determine whether or not a reactant cooler pump or the concrete was poured right. Let's make sure everything works first. It was a 4-1 vote. I lost, and we are going to look at these expenses up until the end of 2015, and we're going to essentially take this settlement that our staff has reached with the power company, and we're going to see, is this really the best deal for our ratepayers? And it's going to be a heated hearing, no doubt, as we evaluate this and try to make the best decision for the future of our state.
Elly, your question.
This question is for Commissioner Echols. Recently, the commission also approved Georgia Power studying a new plant in Stewart County. And that the ratepayers could also pay for that study. Why do this now, approve this now, when there are still expansions going on at Plant Vogel that haven't yet been completed?
In my conversations with the Department of Energy, it took them quite a while to stand up their office for oversight of Plant Vogel and the similar plant in South Carolina. And my concern was that if we allow a gap to happen between these two plants, that it is going to require that agency and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to have to kind of reinvent, rehire, restart a lot of their regulatory oversight. Plus, the work that we've authorized right now is a site review to determine, is this site even suitable for nuclear power? As we think about the price, a price of carbon maybe coming in the future, I think, to be prudent for our state, we simply have to prepare for the worst, and that is that there will be a price on carbon and that we're going to need carbon-free energy like that comes out of a nuclear power plant in order to provide all that we need.
We have one final question. Time for one question. Dave Williams.
Okay, this is a question for both candidates. This was in the news lately, and it may not be something that's in the arena of the PSC, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Gasoline prices spiked last month when a leak occurred in a major pipeline disrupting supplies to Georgia and other southeastern states. Do you believe the affected governments handled that properly, or could something else have been done to avoid that situation?
You'll each have 30 seconds for response. We are coming down to time. We'll begin with you, Commissioner Echols.
Well, certainly pipelines are the safest way to transport energy, and there's occasionally an accident, but it's still safer than trucks. Think about trucks coming through your town. It is unfortunate there was a leak. We don't regulate liquid pipelines at the Public Service Commission, though we do have some authority over gaseous pipelines, pipeline safety. Quite a bit of difference between a methane pipeline, natural gas going into your home, and liquid fuel.
Eric Hoskins?
I think that in this particular case, it was caught, it was addressed, and our state government did the best as possible to, I believe, extend trucker drivers' hours to fill the need to actually get the fuel supply back to the state where it needs to be. I think it was a success case, all said and done, and hopefully we don't have to deal with that again.
Thank you both. That is all the time we have for questions. Each candidate will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. And Eric Hoskins, you get the first closing statement, 60 seconds.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Atlanta Press Club, Georgia Public Broadcasting, and our esteemed moderators for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I would also like to say I truly respect Mr. Echols, and I appreciate him sharing the stage with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a problem solver. It is who I am, it is who I've been, and I'm fortunate enough to experience many things and learn from those. And it doesn't take much to understand the importance of the PSC and how it affects Georgians. There's a fine balancing act between regulating public services and servicing the public in regulation. As I see there is room for improvement, let me be that one that carries the burden to make those changes, to push for transparency, to bring education, and ultimately to keep it on point and keep it focused. Let me be the one that earns your vote this November, as I vow to put Georgians first as the PSC Commissioner. We have a saying around our house, I'd rather say what I've done. I'd rather tell you what I've done than tell you what I'm about to do. On June 30th, I qualified for candidacy for the Public Service Commission of District 2. October 21st, I am here sharing my case. And on November 8th, I hope that when you're standing in that ballot box, that you give the opportunity.
Your time is up.
Oh, that when you're standing in it, you vote for Eric Hoskins. Thank you.
Thought you were wrapping up.
I was trying to.
Tim Echols, 60 seconds for a closing statement.
You know, despite the fact that there's no oil well in Georgia or gas well or uranium mine or coal mine, our electricity here is still 14% below the national average, and that's great news. Back in January, the Commission dropped rates $4.60 for Georgia Power customers. In June, another $5. Keeping rates manageable, lowering rates has been such an important priority to me. And of course, you know, folks know my name is synonymous with advancing renewable energy and solar power in Georgia. It is important for us to think about the future, to plan for it, to anticipate what may come against our state in terms of federal regulation, and make sure that we're prepared. You know, it's been an honor for me to serve you these 6 years. I hope you'll send me back to the Public Service Commission. Let's keep moving Georgia forward and making progress.
That concludes our debate. We'd like to remind voters that the general election will be held on Tuesday, November 8th, and early voting is already underway. Our thanks to the candidates and to our panel of journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging tonight's debate. For more information about the Atlanta Press Club and all of the debates they'll host this election season, please visit atlantapressclub.org. I'm Rickey Bevington. Thanks for watching the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.